work on whenever we are working on our novels. Okay. Now suppose you are writing a novel, um, where you are writing one story in that novel, or maybe you're writing different types of short stories and you're compiling it, okay, in one novel only. Okay? So we are going to talk both of them. Whenever you're working on your novel, we have already discussed, you have to do a very good research. Okay, so post writing is basically working on your research. Based on the research, then you're going to create a plot. Okay, so that is your post writing. Then writing is where you are going to use all the information from the plot and write it in a structured manner. Okay, structured manner is use all the acts, act 1, act 2 and act 3. Put your chapters according to those acts. Okay, so first should be your introductory chapter, then you might show their lives, then you might give a detailed out version of what these characters, protagonist, antagonist, supporting crew, what are they doing. Okay, what is their life like. Okay, now why is that thing important? To make sure that these people become a real life characters in the lives of the audience, okay, of your readers. Then next is your act 2, where you will discuss. Now once the audience have created a connection with these characters, you need to work on how the problems in the life of these characters can create a lot of thought provoking, what should I say, maybe ideas or maybe ways that will make your audience interested in your story. Okay, so you have to gradually, not what should I say, very slowly, you have to introduce your problem among the life of the characters. Okay, then you are going to make sure that your character, your protagonist, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or as many protagonists as you want, they have the capacity, they have the power, they have the zeal to overcome the problem. Okay, if you show a very weak person, maybe physically weak or mentally weak, it will not be possible for them to, as soon as the problem comes, they somehow become very brave and strong. That is not possible. Okay, so maybe from the beginning itself, you have to show them that that person has the capacity to overcome the problem. Okay, then in your act 3, once they understand that, okay, this is the problem, they have the the passion to overcome it. They don't want their, they love their life and they don't want anything bad to happen to the people they love. So finally they try to overcome the problem. Okay, but yes, in between there are some drastic changes that happens in the lives of the protagonist and the supporting crew. So what are those changes you have to work on, and how are they coping up with that changes? Maybe they are good changes or maybe they are bad changes. Okay, and finally, whatever the goal that you have described earlier, so that person is trying to achieve it. Now at the end, you can close the story that whether that person has achieved or not achieved the goal. Okay, so that is your structure. Now whenever you're working on such type of stories, so this structure you always need to follow. Okay, understand for whom you're writing the story. Is it a kid's book? Is it a teenager's book? Is it an adult book? Is it an inspirational book, motivational book, educational book, fiction, non-fiction? You need to understand that, and accordingly you need to work on your writing style and tone. Okay, clear for everyone till now? Okay, now let us work on now suppose, for example, you are using short stories compilation or you are writing a full novel. Okay, now whenever there are short stories, many people, what they do is, usually this is the norm, that they use one theme, okay, or one genre, and they compile all the stories in that particular book. Okay, so now whenever you're working on each story, every story is very important in your book. Okay, if there are 10 stories in your book, 10 short stories, then all the 10 short stories are very important. Okay, you need to work on all of them as equally, and also at the same time use all the 3 acts. Even if they're short stories, they are around 1,000 words or say 15,000 words or maybe 10,000 words. Okay, these are all short stories. They need to be of similar genre. Okay, this is what many writers do. Many writers, they do one more thing is, in one novel they include two stories only. Okay, now these two stories are not usually always of the same genre. Okay, to create a lot of interest, what they do is they use two stories. One is say of fantasy and the other is horror. Okay, maybe you can use the same characters. Okay, or maybe as the protagonist, you can use only one protagonist also. That Sydney Sheldon's novel, that series, Dan Brown, sorry, not Sydney Sheldon, Dan Brown. Okay, that series was there. So there is a series of 3-4 books, right, or maybe 5 to 6 books, where that person, what is his name, Robert Langdon. So I think it's a
Yes.
series of 5 to 6 books, right? All of them is different story, but using one protagonist. Yeah, that is what I'm trying to say. So in your in your stories also, it is not compulsory that you use different protagonists or different characters. Maybe you will use one type of character only, but the stories are different. Okay, so in those series also, Robert Langdon is the protagonist. Okay, he's the person who, solves all the mysteries, and who comes up with different types of solutions. There are different characters also involved in each story, but Robert Langdon is constant among all of them. Okay, so you can do that also at the same time. Make sure that each chapter, if it is a full novel, each chapter is very, very important. If it is a compilation of short stories, then each story is very, very important. Okay, then see, you need to work, you need to be flexible. Okay, because what happens is, there are few things in your stories which you are not very sure how they will act. Okay, how the audience will react to it. Okay, so that is why make sure that those things should be easily removable from your story. So these are called the dead parts. Okay, that thing can be a dead part, can be a character, it can be a situation also, or it can be a full chapter as well. Okay, so whenever you're doing your editing, so that time you're like, these things doesn't make a sense in this, in the novel or in the story, or these things are not really required, it will unnecessarily confuse my audience. You can remove those things. Okay, something what we do in the editing part. Okay, so you need to work on such type of things which you think is not really required. Okay, these things happens a lot whenever we are working for different writers. Okay, so I was once working for a writer, and though we are 3 or 4 writers, so what that writer does is they give us different sections to write. Okay, and then we compile it together. So obviously, because different perspectives are getting included in that. Okay, and maybe the style of writing is different for all of us. So there are a lot of clutter that used to happen. Okay, now what that writer did was, instead of giving us the parts of the stories, the writer started giving us the whole book. Okay, now when I used to write, okay, I don't know about the other writers, but this is what my experience I can tell you is. Now of course, obviously, the stories of that writer, the plot is of that writer, the ideas of that writer, I'm just writing it in a understandable, in a way that the writer wants it to be for their audience. Okay, now the things, there are few things that we also include from our end. Okay, things that we think is, somewhere we can also include few characters or maybe few situations. Okay, sometimes those things are accepted, sometimes those things are removed. Okay, now and also most of the time, what the writer has given us, those things are also removed. Okay, or maybe they are altered. Okay, so it is not always that you need to remove things, you can alter it also. Okay, now these are very, very important, because unnecessary, even while you're editing the movies also. Okay, you might have read it or watched it on different channels, different shows, where the person who's, who wants to become and finally got a break. Okay, and but somehow that their scene is removed. Okay, so why their scene is removed is maybe because that did not make sense, or maybe somehow the next act was not very, very what should I say, was not getting attached to that last scene. Okay, so that is why most of the scenes are usually removed from the stories. Okay, because when you jump from the last scene to the next scene, there should be some connection, there should be some transition. If that transition is not there, then it becomes very, very difficult for the audience to understand what is happening. Okay, now suppose for example, say few characters, they're enjoying their lives. Okay, they're enjoying their lives, they're having good fun in the school maybe. Okay, they are very young kids, and suddenly they turn up to be say grown-ups. Okay, and they are working somewhere, and you somehow get very very confused suddenly what happened. Okay, then you have to read more. Now when you get confused in those seconds, okay, those seconds are very very crucial for the writer. If within those seconds you cannot show what happened in the lives of those characters, okay, suddenly when they were enjoying their life and now they have become adults, and maybe some, they are living different lives. Okay, maybe someone has become very rich, someone is very very say maybe very poor, or maybe very difficult for them to live a life. Okay, or someone is suffering from a very vital disease. Okay, very very crucial disease. Okay, and they are about to die. So what happened in their lives, if you cannot show those things at that particular time, then your audience will suddenly, they will lose interest in your story. Okay, so what happened from this particular scene to this scene, the transition didn't happen. So either I have to include a scene in between, okay, or maybe I can just remove that the kids are playing that scene, okay, where kids are enjoying it in the school. I can remove that scene, okay, or I need to alter that scene basically. Okay, so that is why you need to be very very flexible. Okay, work on your arrangement, that is what is your structure. Okay, so if you are including your if you're writing one story, one novel, so the structure is important. That is what we have discussed, the three acts. Then if you're working on your short stories, okay, now if you read these Sudha Murthy's books for kids, okay, now here what she has done is, what she do is she pick up a theme. Now in the latest novel that my daughter was reading, in that basically what she did is she went to her village, to her grandfather's place. Okay, now from there, what all things she did, whatever things that she experienced, how she's spending her time with her grandparents, every type of teachings maybe. Okay, because grandparents, we always say that they teach us few of the life things that it is required for us to grow up. Okay, so all those things are divided into short stories, short experiences for Sudha Murthy. Okay, so this is what she did. She took up a theme that she's going to her grandfather's place, and now she started her journey from that story writing from the train itself. That she's packing from her home. She's packing. Her parents are also busy in packing. Now she's sitting in the train, and how's her train journey? She's asking about these things from her father or mother. Then they're explaining her all these things. She started from there. Okay, and then she meets her grandfather. Then there are different types, so she goes to that village, and then there are different animals there, cows are there, and everything is there, how to take care of those, why cows are important, why her grandfather is doing this and this work, now why this work is important. For each and every type of this thing, she's written a story on that. Okay, it is a compilation of Sudha Murthy's trip to grandfather or something like that, trip to something, I don't remember, something like that. Okay, so this is your basically an arrangement. You can do it according to the theme, or if usually if you want to include different types of stories, which I will not advise you, different type of genres, sorry, not stories, but genres. Okay, I will advise you not to do that. Even if you're doing that, okay, try to write 3 or 4 stories only. Okay, and keep one of the character constant, like what we discussed about Dan Brown. Okay, Robert Langbottom. Clear for everyone? Okay, then yes, tone and theme is very important. This is what I just told you about Sudha Murthy's novels. Tone is very important. Now, what type of, say, maybe you're writing a horror story. Okay, so what type of tone? You have to use a lot of descriptive tone there. Okay, a lot of say, because you have to show them what is happening, how that how people are scared of a particular thing. Okay, so you have to talk maybe, and mystery also, lot of descriptive style you need to work on. Okay, your tone should be in such a way, it should be sad according to the scene, it should be sad, angry, happy, scared. Okay, so that is what you need to work on whenever you are working on your stories. So according to the stories, you need to work on your tone and your theme. The title, of course, the title is very important. Okay. Title makes a lot of difference in whether your book is going to be picked up from the shelf or not. Okay. People always say that title, don't read the title. Okay. Read the book. That is what it is saying. Okay. So, but to be very honest, people actually read the title. Okay. That saying is never judge a book by its cover. So that cover is very important. On the cover, the title is again the first thing that people are going to read. This is what I also do. I check the title. Even if I know the author, I first check the title. And of course, the way that, that book cover is. Okay, so how, based on that book cover, you are going to now imagine the whole story. Based on the title, you're going to pick that book from the shelf. Okay, so that is why these things are very, very important. Okay, the title, then your book cover, then your story, of course. Your story needs to be very, very good. Okay, even actually, if your book cover is good, but your story is bad, then people might not, might not tell everyone else to read it. You will usually get, this, which is that author, some Bengali writer, very, very good writer. Okay. This lady, she's written a lot of books, Palace of Illusions. Okay. Chitra Banerjee. Yes, yes, yes. Chitra Banerjee's. One is Palace of Illusions, and one is Forest of Enchantments. Palace of the Mistress of Spices also is very good. I have not read it yet. I have read the Palace of Illusions, the Forest of Enchantments, and the Last Queen. Okay, these are all these are very, very, women oriented novels and very good. You should definitely read it. She has taken this the Forest of Enchantments is about Sita's life, goddess Sita. Okay, it's about her life, how she felt during the whole Ramayana. Okay, because as from a women's perspective, we have always heard those Ramayana stories, and they've watched the Ramayana based on the things that has actually happened in everyone's life, except what Sita ji was feeling. Okay, what her sisters were feeling when she was going to the forest. Okay, and when Lakshman ji was going to the forest, how his wife was feeling. So everything is described here from the women's point of view. Okay, should definitely go and read these books. Very, very good books. And you will notice one thing in her books is, okay, she has used first person point of view also and third person point of view as well. Okay, which you're never supposed to combine. First person is where she's written the story from Sita's perspective. So it is something like that Sita is telling you about her feelings. Okay, what is happening in her life. Then finally at the end, as an author, she has described Sita's situation. So she has used the third person point of view as well. Okay, so that is why definitely go and read her books. Okay, then you have okay, now from her title also, from Chitra Banerjee's titles, okay, you will never know what these books are all about. Okay, so the Forest of Enchantments. Now, why is that Forest of Enchantments? It is because she was kidnapped by Ravan and she was kept in the Ashoka forest. Okay, so that is basically for that. Okay, Palace of Illusions. You never know what is there in the story. Okay, so definitely go and read it. The Mystery of Spices also is a very good novel. Okay, and the Queen again. It is one of the one of the best stories where Chitra Banerjee has written her work. So this is, I think, it is also got an award something. I think the Queen. Okay. Now, when we are working on arranging, okay, arrangement of your short stories, these are again very important. Obviously, the order matters a lot. Okay, so if you're using a theme, then you can use it. You can create it in such a way that all your novels, all your short stories are coming in that theme. So, okay, from here, something like what we have discussed in Sudha Murthy's books, starting from her journey to the end where she says goodbye to her grandparents. Okay, so that is all your order. Even if you're using different types of stories, so maybe the characters are different, but maybe the genre is same. So make sure that your stories are in such a way that kids, even if the kids are enjoying different types of stories, or maybe the readers are enjoying different types of stories, they have something that they can relate to. Okay, so whenever they're reading your short stories. Now, there are different type of things that you can include. First and last. So basically, the first and last is what? The first story is very, very good, and the last story is very good. Okay, that is your best work according to you. Okay, then in the middle, all the stories are your where you think that okay, they are not very good, but yes, you like them. Okay, I will not advise you to do this first and last. Okay, if your middle section stories are not very good according to you, how do you expect your readers to go and read your till your last story? Okay, so don't do this type of arrangement for your short stories. Okay, then there is some arrangement that is known as tent poles. Tent poles is basically where you have your, maybe you have 10 stories, you're including 10 stories in a book. The first and the 10th story is really good. Okay, now your maybe seventh, fifth, or say third. Okay, alternate stories you can put good, very, very good stories, best stories, and other alternate stories you can put as okay type of stories. Okay, according to you. Or else what you can do, first and last is best. Then you can put middle stories also, say fifth. Okay, and they say maybe one more here and there you can put one more story, best work, your own best work that you think okay, this is my best work that I'm putting it in such a way so that even if people are reading some of your stories are they become a bit boring, but the next story is very exciting. Okay, then you have length. Length is where you will mix your long stories and short stories together. Okay, so maybe you can put them alternate wise, or maybe you can put it, say first is your short story, and then you can put, say fourth is your long story, then you can put say seventh or eighth is your long story. Okay, likewise you can arrange your books, your stories also in your books. Okay, then there is tone. Tone means you might have different types of genres in your story, in your book. Okay, now you can work on those different genres. Maybe if you're talking about, say there's a horror story, after horror you can put a comedy story or a fantasy story after that. Okay, and if there is some romantic story, after that you can put a, say again a mystery story after that. Okay, so you are giving break to your audience. You can do that also. Okay, then there is front load. Front load is where the best work of your among your stories. Okay, those stories are at the front side of your book. That means the starting chapters. Okay, so maybe there are 10 stories, so and you have 4 best stories out of that. According to you, this is what you feel that these are my 4 best stories, so all the 4 will be put at the starting. Okay, again I will not advise you to do that, then it will become very difficult. If you think that your 6 stories are not that good, then why will your readers read those 6 stories? Okay, you want your readers to come back and take your, by your name itself, they should take your book, they should buy your book. Okay, if that thing is cannot be achieved by the first novel itself, then it will become a bit difficult for your third or the fourth or the eighth novel to, for people to read it. How did Chetan Bhagat become a household name? It was because the first novel hit the audience with such a story which they considered was something that Chetan Bhagat has taken from their lives. They felt that story. Okay, so that is why it is important to work on such type of arrangement where you think that you are giving just, you are providing justification to each and every story on your novel. Okay, clear for everyone?